Well, welcome back to the Garden Experience podcast. Happy New Year again to everyone. Hope that you have been starting your New Year's resolutions off well, whatever they are. I know for myself, maybe not starting off too well, but getting into them.
You're going to have to share what they were then if you're saying you're not starting out very well. Cause
probably like waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only the 3rd of January
when
we're recording
this.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
who knows?
If you stayed up the night before.
Sure. Of course.
A couple nights before. Like, my schedule's super jacked up right now.
Yeah. No, yeah. I would definitely. I'm the kind of person who will. I love sleeping in. I'm not a morning person, but I want to start getting into the habit of it. But lately, I haven't. Yeah. Happy New Year's to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope your New Year is going great. The Garden Experience podcast, really, if you're new to this, is all about conversations that we're having as we prepare to plant our church this year. We have a lot of awesome things coming up, really exciting news, things that we'll be sharing as we move forward. If you want to know more about the Garden Experience or you're interested in it, make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Garden Experience SD. That's where we share pretty much all the things that are going on around here. You'll be able to get kind of an insight on what's happening around here, and you'll kind of get a visual of what's happening too, as well as we share, about our podcast, as we share about the gatherings and the events and all those things we have. We're actually having our first event of the year on January 8th at 4:30 p.m.
Well, we had it already.
Well, we already had it. Yes, that's right. So we already had it.
First Garden Experience of the year, though.
That's right. It's January 29th at 5 p.m. That's on a Sunday. And so if you've joined us before and you're like, oh, man, it's on a Sunday. Yeah, we're changing things up a little bit, kind of exploring more routes to take as we pursue planting the church. And so we're going to be gathering on a Sunday night at 5 p.m. It's really going to be an incredible time. Obviously, our first gathering of the month, so I'm really looking forward to it. But
and I was just sharing with you guys that I think it's going to be on relationships.
Yeah.
Because the month is February, is right there next door.
Oh, yeah.
What
Best
makes relationship work?
Yeah.
Something like that. It would be fun.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is going to be always fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting.
And of course, like the Garden Experience, as if you haven't been a part of it, the whole point is not to invite you to join our church,
Right.
but it's actually to pour into you.
Yeah.
And we ask everyone that comes to do 3 things: to pray, partner, and promote. Pray, partner, and
Participate.
That's it. Which is like, hey, be praying for us as we're planting a church. Participate by like inviting people to join us, to come in. You might not be called to join us, but you might know someone that needs a place where they could encounter God in a new way. Well, encourage them to participate and join us and partner with us. Like when you partner in prayer or financial giving, or because you feel called to join us, like, great. But that's not the point of our experiences. The point is we're seeking after God in a new way.
That's right.
That you've never encountered. We are pouring out to you because our hope and desire is that you flourish like a well-watered garden. And the big news that Casey is hinting about have to do with a name drop. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So we look forward to that. It's going to be really exciting.
A name drop is coming actually on January 29th.
Yeah. And if you're not at our Garden Experience gathering, we'll be dropping it on the 30th on Monday. So you'll see all of that stuff there, which is really exciting. Yeah,
we can't wait.
We said last week it was coming up. We were name dropping it, so we're moving closer to it. So it's really exciting. But thank you guys for joining the Garden Experience podcast. The podcast has been going great so far. We're kind of heading into our, like, I guess you would say, second season.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, kind of heading into our second season, and so. Lots to talk about, a lot of things that we're exploring. We've been going over a lot of like seminars, like John Maxwell and stuff like that, which we'll jump into today. We've been watching John Maxwell, his leadership stuff, like 17 Laws of Leadership, Teamwork, and 21 Laws of Leadership, and all that stuff. And really has helped us, grow into the leaders that God's calling us to be. And that's what we want to share with you as well. We want you to grow into the leader that God's calling you to be, wherever you're at, whatever it looks like, whatever avenue you're in. Could be running businesses, could be leading your family. I think sometimes we don't even think about that. If you're leading yourself,
your own life.
Leading yourself. Yeah,
you're always leading someone.
That's right.
Like that's one of the things that I try to remind people. You're always leading someone. Like even if you're not on a team, if you're not on anything, you're like, well, I don't lead anything, bro. I'm just by myself. It's like, well, you lead yourself. So what are you leading yourself to? Like,
that's right. Yep. That's right.
So
that's why we want to share these conversations with you. That's really what it's all about is, together we want to grow into who God's calling us to be. And so today we're going to jump into the seminar
a discussion on the
discussion,
17
yeah.
indisputable laws of teamwork.
Yeah.
And let me just say, like, if you're wondering, like, why should I care to listen to this right now?
Mm.
And I think, Casey, for the title of this podcast, we should title it Teamwork Makes the Dream Work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's why today's podcast matters to you. You are part of a team, whether you know it or not. So what we're talking about today are going to be 7 insights that each of us would probably not get to all of them, but some insights that each of us learn from this and the application and why it matters to us personally.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to help you because you, like I said, you're already part of a team. You either belong to a family, so you're a family member, or you are a husband and wife, so you are a team, or you work for an organization, which means you are part of a team. So or you're part of a church, and the church is a family, which is a team.
That's right.
So in one way or another, this is going to help you to be a better team member.
That's right.
And the reality is that our desire in these conversations, the reason we're talking about the 7 indisputable laws of teamwork, is that we're trying to create a dream team. A team that will go after what God has called us to do to
right.
achieve things.
That's right.
So if we're going to do that, we have to be intentional to grow. If you're going to reach your full potential, what God has called you to do, you have to grow. So our once a month for the next 5 months or so, 4 months that we got left up, once a month we're going to talk about leadership.
Yeah.
Because leadership makes things better.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know if you've ever been under bad leadership, but it's awful. If you ever had a micromanager as a leader or a manager, you're like, oh gosh, that sucks.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're always leading someone. So this is an opportunity for us to pour into you what we're learning, how we're growing, how we're paying the price to be the leaders that God has called us to be. And hopefully you live here today going, wow, God wants me to be intentional with my growth as well. Let me invest in myself. And you're doing that, actually, if you listen to the podcast. It's not just because you like us. We are grateful for that, but it's also because you find it helpful.
That's right.
You find it that we're inspiring you and adding value to your life. So
That's right.
So 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. Like I said, everyone's on a team.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not. If you're in a family, you belong in a team. So these laws, as we've learned, they apply to every single team, no matter what team it is. A basketball team, church, family. These laws apply to everyone, no matter the race, the age, which is really interesting. And another thing we learned is that these laws have consequences. That if you do them well, you reap good benefit. If you don't do them well, things are not going to go so well.
Yeah.
So there are 17 laws. I don't have them all in front of me. I do because I have my notes.
Yeah.
But I'll just quickly share all the laws with the one statement that he gave about the law, and then we'll go and share which of these laws stood out the most to us, like what are the 7 insights we have, and the application. So law number 1 is the law of significance. And basically Maxwell said this: 1 is too small a number to achieve greatness.
Yep.
So the law of significance: 1 is too small a number to achieve greatness. Number 2, the law of the big picture: the goal is more important than the role. Number 3, the law of the niche: each player has a place where they add the most value. I think we might talk about that one a little bit, but if you're listening to me right now, you have a place that you've been specifically created to add the most value, where you shine the most, where you thrive the most. Where as a matter of fact, that's why we want you on the team, because you shine in that specific area.
That's right.
And if you're looking for a team and you're in San Diego to join, we are looking for like-minded individuals who are looking to grow and serve God and serve people.
Yeah.
Reach out to us by emailing us at thegardenexperience@sd@gmail.com or Instagram. Either way. Number 4, the law of Mount Everest: as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. The bigger the dream, the more teamwork it requires.
Yep.
Number 5, the law of the chain: the strength of the team is impacted by the weakest link. Number 6, the law of the catalyst: winning teams have players that make things happen. Now, this one was really fun to me when he describes in the book. I can't remember from the video, the 3 people it's like people that, like if you're playing a basketball game and it's a championship game, there's three kind of people.
Yeah.
People that don't want the ball at all. Don't pass the ball to me. I'm not going to make the shot. People who want the ball but shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then people who want the ball and should have the ball. Yeah, which I thought was a pretty funny description. I was like, Michael Jordan was that. Like, and I was like, I want to be the clutch player. I remember being a small kid growing up in Puerto Rico, and I thought my dreams growing up, I thought I was going to be in the NBA. I really thought so. I used to go play in the courts by myself, and I used to do all that imaginary thing. You're pass the ball, you're
Buzzer
not
beater,
facing the basket.
Oh,
You
that
got
was me,
3,
yeah.
2, you turn around and shoot.
now.
I missed.
Yeah.
And when every time you make it, you big celebration. And I was like, bro, I wanted to be
Imagine
a
yourself
catalyst.
there,
Yeah. So you used to do the same thing,
Oh,
Casey?
yeah, all the time. Because I grew up being a basketball player. Like in middle school and in high school, I played basketball. That was my thing. And I remember like at night I used to pray like to God, like, please let me go to the NCAA so I can get my. Yeah, I was super into basketball. Always had a basketball hoop outside in like this little like cul-de-sac that I lived in. I would be out there every day shooting, and I'd always just in my mind imagine myself. But I mean, imagination. It's like it's amazing.
Well, that's how it begins,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
right.
you have to imagine it to
That's right.
to see it become reality. Like we're not talking about this today, but conversation naturally leads here. Like in my book that I've finished, it's edited.
Amen.
I'm now submit for
Let's
publishing.
go.
Let's go.
One of the things that I talk about is like you have to imagine it to see it happen. Like, and everything in our lives begins with imagination. But then after the imagination, we got to start putting plans to that baby. That's when we start going like, okay, like I want to be an NBA star. Well, it starts with you seeing that possibility in your mind. And then it's like, well, how much are you going to go practice and
That's
work?
right.
And then how willing are you to sacrifice? Like when I used to think I was going to be a basketball player, like I was in high school here in California, moved from Puerto Rico. I used to spend 3 hours practicing each day. I was committed. I was paying the price.
Yeah.
And you know what I said? I said, I'm right-handed, so I'm really strong with my right hand. I'm going to run to the gym, which was about 20 minutes away from where I lived, with dribbling only with my left hand, and return back dribbling only with my left hand. And when I get there, I'm going to play for 2 hours, and then I'm going to do lots of left-handed moves because I already got my right hand down. That comes naturally because I wanted to be able to be good enough, both sides, that they couldn't stop me.
Yeah.
That's the pay. You got to pay the price.
the price.
The price to see the vision become a reality.
That's right.
I quit when I realized I'm not tall enough.
No, yeah.
And I met my wife at the time, my girlfriend, and I was like, and I was falling more in love with music at that time. So it's a really interesting transition in my life.
Yeah, you gain these new ambitions. Like the way you say it too. If you've ever watched the Crazy Faith series, Michael Todd, Transformation Church, one point in one of his messages, he was talking about the vision that you should have. And he was talking about being able to see it before you see it, and that coincides directly with imagination. Like even to the point of writing it down, right? Like writing it down and making it plain. Like talking about like Habakkuk 2:2, like writing it down, making it plain on tablets, like so the hero can run with it. It's like it's that idea of like you have to be like able to use your imagination like that and be able to see it kind of with your imagination before you actually see it happen in front of you, the reality of it, because you'll start thinking of things. How do I pay the price? Oh, I'm going to dribble with my left hand. I'm going to run to the gym and all the way back. And so it's that stuff's so important. It's especially like as we prepare to plant the church, a lot of things that God's calling us to do. It's just like we have to be able to see it before we see it. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, and that's amazing. Yeah, and if you don't see it, John Maxwell says like it's the saddest. One of the saddest things that happen to people is when they don't actually have a vision for their own life. They don't have a vision for what they could be. They don't have a vision for what they could accomplish. So they go through life just basically really living not to the full potential.
That's right.
So we don't want that for you. God doesn't want that for you. God has, Jeremiah 29:11, He has a plan for your life, plans that are for your good, to give you a future and a hope. So we're not saying here like be responsible. Like, know yourself, know your strength, know how you're shaped. What do you dream about? What do you sing about? What makes you hurt? And then imagine what your life could be like. If you're married, why are you not envisioning that you could have a great gospel center, gospel ministry kind of marriage where you love one another and you seeking Christ first, and because you're seeking Christ first, it's spilling out into a beautiful relationship. Why do you think you have to just live a marriage that's just in the rut?
Yep.
No passion, no love, just arguing, or we just do life together, but I don't really like you and you don't really like me. Like, that doesn't have to be your future. Envision something greater. You can. Erwin McManus says humans are the only Christians that can imagine a future, a reality that isn't. Humans are the only Christians that can imagine a reality that isn't. Why is that? Because God has given us opportunity to make choices, to make what we imagine a reality. And then he goes on to say that some of us, and we mentioned this before, some of us will not get all that we could have gotten because we were too afraid to say it. We never materialized and say, here's what I think God could do. Like my wild dream, you both know this, is that we become a church that plants 10,000 churches. You know what? I've already said that to maybe like 6-7 people. You know what the majority of them have been? You're wild. You're too crazy. It's not going to happen. You know what? You stay with your small world. I'm going to believe God. I'm going to set myself on a path that says, how could we create a place that becomes a catalyst for 10,000 churches to be planted? We're not planting them all. It's just creating a system that perpetuates the creation of more churches and express a vision forward for churches that plant churches up to the 4th and 5th and 6th generation. We could do it.
That's right.
Why not?
That's right.
Why not us? I believe God, so why not? So,
right.
anyway.
That's so true. One more thing on that too. I think it's interesting when you talked about, playing basketball and how you imagine yourself being a professional basketball player and you pay the price and you put in time and effort. I think sometimes, that's how we discover the ambitions and the things that, God desires for our lives. Sometimes we have to try things and like they don't actually pan out. And I think that sometimes people may see that as failure in their life, right? Like for myself, I thought I was like to the point of like, I'd be on my bed praying to God that I would be a basketball player, right? Because I loved it so much and I was ambitious about it. But that wasn't, at some point my desire shifted towards music. I mean, same as you, like I fell in love with music and I fell in love with producing and engineering, and like that's where I found my passion, and that's where I think God ultimately led me to. But it was like also I almost don't think I would find those things if I didn't try other things, right? I just wouldn't find my passion or like ambitions at all. I would just be stuck, right? And I'd just be like, well, I don't actually know what are my skills, what are my gifts. I should probably try things so it's just that kind of idea of like, when you do experience things and you're like, oh, I thought I was going to do this, I was going to be professional at this, and it didn't work out. Like that sucks. It's like maybe it doesn't suck.
What's the point of you towards?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, you discover your purpose by doing. That's the reality of it. You discover your calling as you get your hands dirty.
That's right.
And most people think it's the opposite. Most people think that it's just going to descend on me and come up and just pop up. No, like, I never wanted to be a pastor, as you guys know this, but this happened to be the calling that God has on my life. I discovered that by doing it. It was never going to descend upon me if I never got put into the situations that allowed me to do it. Because it's really mysterious circumstances that got me into it. It's when I came to discover, though, that this is the best way I can serve people and the church.
That's good.
So it's the same with you. Like if you're like, man, I just don't know my calling. I just don't like get your hands dirty, get serving, and then start discovering like what are you really good at as you're doing it, and what really brings you passion. And like I love inspiring people. I love to encourage people. Exhortation, the gift of being able to equip people and give them a better vision of the future and encourage them forward. It's a natural thing for me. I love it.
That's right.
So it's like, what can I do to do that?
That's good.
How can I position myself to do that? Here's a funny story about my short-lived basketball career. I made it into the varsity team my freshman sophomore year, I think it was, in between summer school. We went out to play in LA and stuff, and we were at a tournament, and I did a steal. Because I was really fast. I used to be super fast. I'm super slow now, but I'm still like my brother-in-law was like, bro, you got it so slow over time.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't keep up with you. Now you can't keep up with me, like kind of deal. I did a steal. I went on a fast break by myself, and I jumped up and said, I'm gonna dunk this baby. I had never dunked before. As I jumped up, I realized I'm not going to make it. So I'm on a fast break. I tried to turn it into a layup, and I missed. I was like,
You gave it a shot.
I was so humiliated. I ran back. I stole the ball again. I went for it again. And I was like, okay, never again do I try this.
Oh, my gosh.
I missed twice on a fast break because I was trying to do something I never had done.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried it before, like in practice and stuff like that.
Yep.
Sure. But I was like, it just hasn't worked. But I could pass my wrist through the rim, so I should be able to do this. And when you think the adrenaline's gonna help.
I never had the vertical leap. I would just put the basketball hoop down.
Yeah.
And I would practice dunking that way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe one day I'll be able to do it when it's 10 feet tall. But
bro,
never.
I bought training and exercise to develop muscles to jump higher. When I said I was paying the price, I was paying the price.
Oh,
yeah. 4 hours a day, like running and playing, and that's before school and after school.
That's determination.
Yeah, which is, here's what I learned. Like, if you really want something, you got to go for it.
That's right.
And you got to really sacrifice for it. And you got to give it your all. And most of us go through life not really giving our all to anything. Like, who knows how far we could get. You won't get far if you don't give it all. If you just... So when I try something, I try to go full in. Sometimes that's a bad thing. Because it's like, you're definitely not good at that. And you're so committed to trying to grow.
Yeah.
It's like, because if I'm going to do it, at least I want to get good at it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try it, and I'm going to think about it. I'm going to try to twist it aside and say, like, what can I do differently? So like, if you're not doing that with your own life, if there's not something where you're like, I'm 100% invested in this, figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it'll just bring more life.
Yeah. And because
I'm 100% invested in giving you guys life and trying to help you grow.
Yeah. And because of your experience, you've discovered the skills that God's gifted you with. And now you're like, I will invest in those fully.
And
no holding
greatness,
back.
I'm not even close to greatness, but trying to do anything good just takes so much work.
Yeah,
It's a lot of hard work. So you have to build the skills of not quitting. You have to learn how to build the skills of resiliency, or how to keep going when it gets hard, how to keep going when no one is around you cheering you up or cheering you on. You just have to build that resiliency, because everything worthwhile, it's uphill.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to know that. And you just have to go like, it's not going to come free, and it's not going to just come to me. Like, the worst things that could happen to me growing up was hearing stories of successful people that did nothing to get their stuff. Right? Like, I heard this Christian singer story that, he was singing at his house, and this manager just showed up to his house and said, like, God told me to come, and he became this next guy. And it's like, that's like the worst thing that could happen. Like, when God put men in the garden, he said, tilt it, work it. That's in paradise, baby.
Yeah, that's a word.
That's not before sin. Like, and after sin is like, now by the sweat of your brow. Like, you were working already, but now you're going to have to work harder. To make this fruit grow.
Yeah.
To make this thing flourish. It's like, man, like, but there's beauty that comes out of it. There's purpose. There's a sense of success and achievement that comes out of it. It's like, for what we're about to set out to do this year, we got to pay up the price.
Yep.
We got to sacrifice. We got to do things we've never done before.
That's right.
And we got to ask ourselves, am I willing to go further? Am I willing to be the catalyst? Which I haven't really talked about, but one of them is like, you go the second mile.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I want to be. Now, it's not I want to. It's like, will I do it now? That's the question.
Yep.
Anyway, number 7, the law of the compass. Vision gives team members direction and confidence. Number 8, this is a good one that we talked about prior to our recording, the law of the bad apple. Rotten attitudes ruin a team. Most powerful thing, I don't have this in my insights, but maybe you guys have it, that John Maxwell says on this, on attitudes, if you listen to his podcast as well, is that your attitude is a choice. You're not born with it. You don't inherit it. It's not given to you.
That was like, I was kind of imagining like how difficult that would have been for many people to hear.
Yeah. That's revelation. That's like, whoa.
Bro, I've known someone that blamed his bad attitude on his dad. Like, well, I have a bad attitude because my dad used to have a bad attitude. Your dad used to. He
doesn't anymore?
So he doesn't,
and
but you still do. And you're blaming him for your bad attitude.
That's a good one.
I feel like next time I'm learning a lesson right now and being even more cryptic, I'm just be like, I know a person that will blame another person. That way no one could ever think that I'm saying some.
That's funny.
Number 9, the law of accountability. Teammates must be able to count on one another. And then the question there was like, can people count on you or something like that, which was a really good one.
Yeah.
Number 10, we'll be kind of talking about this in a way without really talking, which is the law of the price tag.
Yeah.
The team fails to reach its potential when it fails to pay the price. A person stops growing when they fail to pay the price required to grow. Individuals or organizations that don't pay the price eventually pay a price. Number 11, the law of the scoreboard. The team can make adjustments when he knows where he stands.
Yeah.
Number 12, the law of the bench. Great teams have great depth. Number 13, the law of identity. Shared values define the team. And this one's truly important. Values are exhibited through behavior. We're almost there. And then we'll start discussion. The law of communication. Interaction fuels action. That was number 14. 15, the law of the edge. The difference between two equally talented teams is leadership. And number 16, the law of the high morale. When you're winning, nothing hurts. Ain't that a reality? When you're doing good, everything feels good. And when you feel good, you do good. And then number 17, the law of dividends. Investing in the team compounds over time. So these are the 17 laws. Casey and Nate, start with you, Nate. What were some of the biggest insights that you have? We're talking about maybe, we each wrote about 7 insights and then application and why it matters for you.
I think one of the ones that jumped out at me first was really like law of the bad apple. And I was kind of curious, questioning myself as to why that was the first one. I think because, like as we build up our leadership skills, as we are developing ourselves.
Can you say the law again of the bad apple?
The law of the bad apple.
I'll say it. Rotten attitudes ruin a team.
Yeah. And so it's like, thank God we don't have anything like that amongst our team now. But it's like, how do we? I think the reason it stood out to me was the fact that like the reality is that we'll have to defend our team from that. And it's like, at first we're in this building phase and we're excited to welcome people to join us. And then I read about this rule that's like the law of the bad apple. And it's like, great, like I don't want to have to like have a negative attitude when we're in this like building phase of, we're looking for people to join us. And so like, we would love the help. There's things we're doing that we're not like ecstatic about. There's things that I would love to pass on to someone else, if it was their passion. But it's like, this is kind of the reality check that was like, okay, hold on. If you let anyone in your team, like this could be a huge problem. And so I think we were talking about it earlier. We're talking about,
and even the people that hang out with you,
right?
Like
Yes.
if you
beyond team building, whoever you surround yourself with,
well, even your life, right? Like you're like, man, what do I like? I told you guys about this story where I went out with 2 friends to have lunch that I haven't seen in a long time,
I think so.
and it was like, I was like, after I left, I was like, that was when I really learned. We talked about Sabbath a while back. That's when I really learned that there's some friends that feel like work. It's like on my day off, I'm never gonna hang out with friends that feel like work. Because that's just terrible. And it was bad attitudes. Like so, the entire time there, it's like they have a bad attitude. They see the world in a bad way. Oh gosh, and now I'm like, I'm trying to enjoy this like expensive dinner with like lunch with them, and it's like, now I have a bad attitude too. Like it's like instead of So sorry, Nate.
No, I think that I can say the same for myself. Before I went to Eastlake, before I met you guys, I was in a weird like transition period between churches, and so I was kind of already like out the door of my last church, with my mom looking for like a new church, and so like I didn't really have. It's funny too now that I think about it. I didn't hang out. I like all my friends from my old church. I never saw them like once we left the church. So it's kind of interesting to see that. But so I started hanging out with a bunch of people that I met in college at Grossmont. I started just hanging out with them. Like I had people that like we would text each other and be like, hey, if you're in between classes and you want to like study, you want to hang out, I'll be here at the cafeteria doing whatever. I didn't really like ever hang out outside of school with them because I knew they weren't Christians. I knew they I was just busy at my old church all the time anyway. But once I was freed up from that and I was going around with my mom looking for a new church, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just hang out with them. And so for a month, I hung out with these people. They're great people, and I'm not talking bad about like the people, but like I knew they weren't Christians, so the things that I value, they don't value as much. And so I even my parents noticed like my attitude started shifting, and I was more like them, which is not like inherently like a bad thing, but it wasn't the best self that I was. So I was like constantly just talking bad about other people. Like, my mindset was always negative, and it was just kind of like I didn't really care about anyone except for myself. And it was like a weird, like it was a very brief time, and a very weird like time that just as soon as I met you guys, or when I started going to Eastlake, and then I met you guys, that whole phase just kind of like disappeared. So like I praise God every day that like I didn't have to think. Like at some point I started worrying about like, okay, like God, I know these aren't people that I should be hanging around all the time. There's a reason I'm here, and it's probably to like be the light to these people, but I wasn't being a light to these people.
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, I want to get myself out of this situation, but I don't want to tell them like they're the problem, because it's me. I'm the problem. I'm the one who's shifting my beliefs, and like I'm compromising my faith to meet them where they are. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. So I remember one day one night I like prayed to God. I was like, I don't know how to get out of this situation, because it's not like a life or death situation. These are great people. They're my friends. I don't want to like be rude to them and just be like later, like whatever, like this is the, I don't want to be like that. But I remember like God opened up the opportunity at Eastlake for me to start serving more, and so more of my time went there. And at some point, it was just this quiet transition. Nobody got hurt. I still talked to some of them, but it's like it was a weird like phase in my life that lasted very briefly, but it was quite impactful for who I would become. And so I often think about that law of the bad apple, and it's like, man, how easy was it for me to shift my entire being just being around like some people who are like, they're great company, but it was like, it changed who I was for a month. Like my parents were like, it was weird, like talking to you, like you weren't like, I guess I wasn't very like, I don't know what the right word is. Like I wasn't very open-minded. I wasn't understanding. I was very like short-tempered, and it was really weird. Like I was rude to them, and like something I would like never do now. And even before then I would never do. But like, I guess it's just that's how crazy it is when you're around different people And so that's the reason why that law stood out to me first. And especially now that we're team building, it's like, okay, well, I guess that relates to my second thing that I wrote down was the...
Before you move on, because one of the things that John Maxwell talked about, the attitude was like good attitudes are contagious, but bad attitudes are even more contagious.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, so it's important, like not only that, how we show up with our attitude. Last week, I think prior to a recording, I talked about how it's a good thing that we are predictable leaders.
Yes.
That like, it's a good thing that you guys know how Armando's going to show up to our meetings. It like, I could predict he's going to be in a good mood. He's going to say some stupid joke, like, like whatever it is.
Sure.
Like, because it gives you the comfort of knowing the mood and attitude that Armando always has. If I was like, one day I show up and I'm upbeat, and the next one I'm like super downcasted, and the next one I'm angry, it's like, bro, I don't know what to do with you. And then it starts spreading out to other people.
Yes.
So this law is so important to create a healthy team that has a good attitude.
Yeah, it's a great reminder I think too, for all of us. Like in addition to that, for myself, reminding myself that I don't want to be that for other people, right?
Yeah.
Because the truth, there's so much truth in that. Bad attitudes, how more contagious they are than good attitudes. And as we are in a phase of building teams, and even just for each other, like I don't, even if it's like good for ourselves too. We don't want to be the ones none of us want to be the bad apple.
Yeah.
And then as our teams grow, we don't want to spread this bad apple, bad attitude, and it just becomes contagious, and then your team just begins to fail. But we want to bring people in too, right? So I think he even wrote on this law, like an attitude either draws people to you or pushes them away from you. And I think that as we are in a team building phase, and we just want community. We want to bring people just in general, even past like team building, right? I think that in some way we will always be team building because, as we desire to plant out churches, we're going to send people out and we're going to build more teams because
we need to replace ourselves.
Yeah. And that's so true. And so I think we're always going to be team building. We have to draw people in, right? we have bad attitudes. If one of us is a bad apple, and I think that's kind of the, one of the crazy things about the whole bad apple law too is I think you could have such a big team, and I think that in some ways, even if there's just one bad apple in the large team, that could almost break the entire team because of, like you said, I think how fast bad attitudes.
From experience, it does. And it's one bad attitude will ruin the entire team, will create communication problems. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know how to talk, because you're like, well, I already know how this person's going to respond, mm-hmm. so should I? It will create a results problem because nobody's willing to work with that person.
That's right.
So we haven't talked about the law of the weak chain, but attitude and weak chain go hand in hand too.
I was going there next.
If you have a bad attitude, you're going to be the weak link because everybody's having to always put up with you, to have to try to deal with you. So you're always dragging the team down because of your bad attitude. So you're just like, bro. And then the stronger people are like, we haven't talked about it again, but the stronger people on the chain are going like, this dude or this gal, man,
it already divides.
Can't work.
Right.
And now we're trying to make up for them and trying to tell people, no, he or she's okay. It's like everybody, they know he's not okay or she's not okay. Yeah. But again, before we move on, how are you going to apply it to your life, Nate? And again, that statement he said that is just so brutal. Your attitude is a choice. I just got to say it again because that's like, if attitude is a choice, it means we choose the mood we're in.
Yeah.
We choose to stay in it. We choose to dwell in it. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some practices that we can take to get out of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I was thinking of applications, and I was like, first of all, identify what it is what behaviors and what attitudes are not good for, your situation or just in general. There are generally just bad behaviors and bad mindsets, and it's identify those. And I think a really big part of my application, at least for me, the application for this law, it's really honor system. It's just are you gonna choose? Are you gonna choose what's right or what's wrong? And it's if you choose what's wrong, you made your bed, lay in it, understand, learn from your mistakes, whatever. But it's the application to kind of counter the law of the bad apple for me was just kind of are we going to make the effort to really, discover and learn about who it is, we're inviting on our team, which obviously, yes. So it's that one, the application, I was kind of it's kind of straightforward for me.
Yeah. But for your own personal life, it's just that.
Oh,
I choose to.
Yeah. For my personal life in I'm sure there will be plenty of situations that can lead me to being in a bad mood, but it's understanding who I am and what situation I'm in, understanding God and how he plays in my life and how he leads my life, and then choosing not to sit there in the negative, and that's it's harder. It's way more difficult to do.
Oh yeah, and that's why I said there's how do we shake ourselves out of a bad attitude? So we need tools.
Yeah.
And Maxwell didn't go into tools and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. But one of the tools that helps with changing your attitude is gratitude.
Yeah.
If you you're having a bad day, you're in a bad mood.
Count what you're grateful for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Find some time to say, what am I grateful for before I go in, or you know what? Who am I meeting with them? How can I add value to them? Because it's not about what I feel. It's about who I get to invest in and who the seeds that I get to sow today. So sometimes it's just a mind shift, right? Because we all, attitude could be adjusted by anything. Mm-hmm. You slept wrong. You woke up aching, but it doesn't mean you have to stay in that. And that's right. The part that's difficult.
I think I can just add to that too, because it is one of the ones that I want to add. I want to be acknowledged in my own life too, because I don't, like I said, I think prior to your points, I don't want to be a bad apple in a team. It's the last thing I want to be, and that's what I don't want anyone to be. And so, as it kind of ties into, we'll talk about it more too, because I'm sure we all have at some point in our insights the law of the price tag, because that is such a significant one, I think, to all of us. We even talked about it for like 10 minutes before we were
without ever mentioning the law.
But in a season of paying the price as we grow, sometimes some of the things that we have to do we may not necessarily want to do, right? And so, but that comes with paying the price, and so. It may in some ways, I think, even me being honest, like sometimes I just don't, like, for instance, like things like social media and stuff like that. I'm not like connoisseur in it. I don't invest a lot of my time in it because it's just not where I find passion.
I use it, but
and I think it is
like,
extremely necessary tool. Like you should be using it. Like,
I mean, it's part of the air we breathe now as a society.
And so it's like, we should be. And so it's paying the price of like, I should learn it. I should understand it. I should use it. And I think that's in the season. It's like acknowledging that there's no excuse for my bad attitude, right? Because he just like you said, an attitude you decide to have a bad attitude or a good attitude. Like it's based off your decision, and like
you stay on.
There's
it.
no you shouldn't.
You're gonna decide if you're gonna stay on it or not.
And people use excuses for their bad attitudes. So it's I think for me, it's the acknowledgement of how attitudes come alive in our lives, and how we do choose them, and there's no excuse for I have a bad attitude today, like it sucks I have to do social media, or I like why. It's just like there's really no excuse, and I can choose to have a good attitude in the midst of the things that you don't want to do, or sometimes all around you is maybe all around you is negative attitude, right? And so it's that choice of like acknowledging that, like, not even letting it partake or invade into your own personal life. And so it's just like realizing just how attitudes become applied in our lives, and how we're just like.
I love one thing that you spark in my mind, which is like you were talking about social media right now. You're like, oh man, I gotta do so. It's like maybe it's actually even just turning it into a positive.
Yeah,
that changes your attitude. It's like, oh, I get to add value to people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we get to share what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's maybe like even discovering the excitement behind it to do the things you don't want to do, and the things that you don't draw energy. Like I was like, man, that might be another good practice.
Good practice.
Just change your language. Stop saying I have to.
Right.
I hate this. It's like, what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna add value to people.
What it's producing, what it's producing is part of my own personal values, right? Because like I want to add value to others, right? That's a great value in my life, and social media, what it's producing is that. So it's like you shift your mind from I just have to post this post, or I have to just do this. It's like, well, what is it actually producing? What is it creating? And it's actually gonna add value to people because what we said on this podcast, or what we mentioned, the events we want to do, and like we want to draw people in and connect with people. Like that's what it's producing. So it's actually like does tie to the value that I have in my own personal life. That's a great It's a good tools really matter.
Yeah. Good way to spark. I before we move on from this one, here's a good question for each of us to not answer, but think about: how's my attitude affecting those around me? And then if you're brave enough, go ask a loved one. Like, hey, how does my attitude affect you? But only if you're brave enough, because you might not like the answer. You're like, ooh, I don't want to ask that question.
That's good.
Yeah. But Nate, you were going to mention a second law, and then we'll switch to Casey after that. Sure. Second law. You were going to mention the law of the chain.
Yep.
Yeah, which says the strength of the team is impacted by the weakest link. What do you want to share about that law?
I mean, going into it from the bad apple, kind of like how they're related is just like, I think the reason those two, particularly the two laws, bad apple and then the law of the chain, the reason they particularly stood out to me is because I think I could confidently say they're probably the two fields that I have next to no experience in, right? Like team building, I've never built my own team. I've been part of teams that are already established. Whether or not they abide by these laws is like completely irrelevant. I've never been in the position where I'm tasked with, alongside you guys, building a team that adheres to these laws. And so I think I could have, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but we talked about some other laws about like the niche and helping people find their place. And there's all these like teamwork, working together, all that stuff, like all the positives and the things that I feel like you would think, immediately think of stuff that's in the forefront of your mind when you think of leadership. Whereas like, I think in my case, just for this like set of things we were learning, it was interesting that all the kind of the things to look out for, like the negative things, I should say, for lack of a better way of like putting it, but like the two laws that are about like looking out for the weakness, I think stood out to me more. So yeah, the law of the chain, team strength is impacted by the weakest link. It's so interesting because it's like, I don't want there to be a weak link in our team. And then of course, as for myself, I don't want to be the weakest link, but it's like there are, like I'll say it like this, there are places in which I will be the weakest link because there are things that I'm not good at, right?
All of us.
All of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, like Casey mentioned earlier, like social media, like I love browsing it, and I like it's funny when you see funny things on social media. I love consuming it, and then
I think that's the dopamine,
right?
I don't think it just builds a habit in you.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like,
yeah. And then on the opposite side, we're using it to build our brand, to build our ministry. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to have to think of. And I think part of it is like the creative process too, right? Because like, as a creative, oftentimes we're not as motivated when we're not inspired. And so when it's time to create a new post, to create a new graphic, to do something where that requires like creativity, if I'm not inspired and I don't feel like creating, then it's kind of like it adds onto that weight. And so like I can say like I'm the weak link in social media. I
think we're all battling for the title.
Sure, yeah, for that.
Casey doesn't get it because he posts.
No, because he's doing the most work on it.
He posts.
So it's like even if he doesn't like it, he's doing the best. But it's yeah. So I mean, like the law of the chain. What stood out to me, like the few things that John Maxwell said that I wrote down. Not everyone will take the journey with you, and I think that one immediately like stood out to me because there are so many people in my life that I'm like, I know they're people from my old church and people that I know from like various places from college, whatever. I know they're looking for like a church. I know they want to hang out with like us, and it's like I want to bring them along, but then it's kind of like I reach out and I reach out and I reach out, and then I know I'm gonna keep persisting and I'm gonna keep going, but at some point now that I'm thinking of these laws, I'm like, okay, well if I eventually get them to join our team, like. There will be a place for them. There always will be. But it's like, if it's been months of me, like, I would love to have you come and help us, and then they come up with excuses and they don't show up and they don't show up and they don't show up. Like, doesn't that eventually make them like kind of the weakest link right now? And so it's like, how can we count on people like that to join our team? And it's like, not slighting any of these people that I'm like thinking of, but it's just like, I want them to come along with us. I want to bring people along, but then when John Maxwell said, not everyone will take the journey with you, it's kind of like, I was like, dude.
Yeah, and he followed by
saying, not everyone should.
He followed that by saying, because there's choice.
Their choice,
yes.
Yeah. So that's, that first one is choice. So not everyone will take the journey with you. That's a choice. What I wrote after that, which I'm assuming is what he said next, because I'm not even sure if I wrote this in order, but it says, not everyone should. Yep. That's a question of ability, right?
Yep. Not everyone should take the journey with you.
Not everyone should take the journey with you. And then below that I have, not everyone can. And I think that's, what was that, potential?
Yep.
And so it's just like hearing those things, it's like, man, I don't want to tack these like qualities on people that I know, because you know what I mean? Like we're constantly thinking of who can join us, everyone's welcome. And there are people that I know personally.
There's a place for everyone. Like
there's a place for everyone. But there are people personally that I know that I want to like, this is an opportunity for them to come back and like hang out with us and get involved with the church, and be part of its like, creation really and its growth. But then the more effort I have to put in to getting them to come, and it's kind of like, some of it's like, I'm kind of like hurt a little bit personally because it's like, I thought we were friends, blah, 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 blah. And that doesn't change much. We're still friends.
And that's God shaping you too.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
The leadership is still with 1,000 no's.
Yeah.
Before you get a one yes, sometimes
right.
it's just, but that yes changes everything.
Changes everything, of course. Yeah. Going back to like behaviors and mindsets, it's easy to feel negative all the time when people are like saying, no, I won't come around. They're like, no, I got something to do. And then when someone shows up and they're like, oh yeah, I'll help. It's like, oh wow, thanks. Like, but yeah. So like I think the the law of the chain really stood out to me because it was that kind of, we always want to bring people we love along, but not everyone will take the journey. Not everyone should, and not everyone can. It was kind of like, dude, that's like, I pray it's not any of the people that I'm thinking of. Like, I do want them to join us, and I hope that, God works in them and works it out, and we're able to do like all this stuff together. But it's like, dude, that law was really like, man, stood out to me a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a good law, and the words you're saying, not everyone will take the journey with you, not everyone should take the journey with you, not everyone can take the trip with you, or the journey with you. It's essential to know early too.
Yeah.
Because this is sometimes when we could get our hearts hurt.
Yeah.
Because our expectation is that everyone will want to come. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to add value to people.
Yeah.
We're trying to lead them to where God desires for them. We want more for them.
Yeah.
Than they know we want for them.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know that. Like our desire is like you just like our vision is grand, and we haven't fully shared it. But in a summary, it's really to be a community of fully alive people who love God, love people, and do good works. Like, we want you to be fully alive.
I want you to be part of that
living
community,
out your purpose, living out your calling. And sometimes we want that for you, but you might not want it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where it becomes difficult.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that the law of the chain pairs well with is the law of values, the shared values. Our values will determine whether or not people want to take a journey with us, whether they should, and whether they can take a journey with us. Our values will be the guide for that.
That's right.
Because they'll be like, man, I love your values. I think I could take a journey with you. Yeah, I should take a journey with you because you're like the same thing that my heart has. Or I can't. You value contagious joy. You want to be a place that's known for joy. I like my bad, rotten attitude. It's like, we're not a place for you. Like, we just aren't.
It's the truth.
And that's when we'll have to make the hard decision. Eventually, be like, you're like, Armando, that's on you. Only at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
But that's super interesting to know. Like, okay, if I realize that, like, church planting is about that too. Not everyone that I want to come will take the journey. Some of them should take the journey, but they're not going to do it either. And some of them could be with us, and they have the potential to be someone great, but they won't see it either. Yeah. So it's just learning to inhabit that space. How would you apply this in your life, Nate?
Oh man, I mean, like, I think really it's it comes with, for me, this law was a lot of like reflection, I think, and understanding, like coming to terms with the reality of the situation, which is like, again, like the law of the bad apple is like, it's tough because like when you deal with okay, even not talking about other people, but like, let's say even with yourself, like myself, understanding, like having to understand that in like some areas I will be the weakest link is like, I mean, now I can admit that to myself. I have no problem. Before I probably couldn't, like, before being humbled by God, it was just like, oh yeah, like if someone asks me to do something, I'll take care of it. Like I want to be like dependable. I want to be like, and then now coming to a place where it's like, okay, someone like, I mean, if we weren't in a situation where like we were doing all the work ourselves right now, and we were paying the price, if we weren't in a situation like that, and you were like, hey, could you, if you were asked me to do what Casey does with social media, I would be like, bro, like, are you sure? Like, and so I think the practice that, I had, at least the only one I wrote for this one was really just like, will you take the time to reflect on what it is, I should say, like what it is the situation requires of you, and whether or not, so let's say this is for your like own life, let's say. So like identify where your life needs you, like what roles your life needs you to play, right? Like I'm my parents' son, I have friends, I'm a friend. So like I'm a leader now in this church. Actually, you're really a leader all the time. That's what we said earlier. So sorry for contradicting that. But like you count the roles in your life. And
you didn't contradict. We said you're always leading
leading some. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Whether you know it or not.
Safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not saying you're a leader.
Right,
you
right,
are
right.
leading.
You
your
are
life.
leading. That's
so you're
true.
leading.
Yeah.
You're always leading someone.
So it's like, I guess, again, my application is like, will you take the time to reflect in your life, and then maybe you're great, mastered your own life, you're good at taking care of yourself. Okay, well, are you in a position of leadership of others, and will you reflect on that and the people that are part of that? If you're leading a team, really taking the time to understand the team that you're leading, or really taking the time to understand you as a leader, if it happens to be you being the weakest link, which I pray it's not. But yeah, I think it's really a lot of reflection for this one, and not trying to sugarcoat things. I think really like being honest with yourself and being honest, understanding your situation, understanding what context, like what scenario of leadership, whether it be your own life, leading a company, leading in your job, whatever, understanding and being real with yourself about what's going on, and then making the tough decision in your mind to be like, okay, is so-and-so or am I like not in the right niche that they should be in, right?
Yeah. Which I think is the answer to, if you're feeling you're the weak link, wherever you are right now, the law of the niche is extremely helpful here.
Yeah.
2 ways to make sure you're not the weak link. Make sure you know what you're good at. What are you best at? Yeah. Ask yourself and answer the question honestly. Like, what am I best at? And then ask yourself after that, am I in that position? If you're not, you're most likely not going to give your best.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're most likely going to be struggling. And the second way, it's like, let's say you are in what you're best at, but you can't keep up pace, you can't follow up, you don't want to be the weakling, pay the price and grow.
Yeah.
So 2 other laws come into action here.
Right.
If you don't want to be the weakling, you don't have to be, as long as you're growing. But if you refuse to grow, if you refuse to get better, you will drag the team down and you will hurt the team. So in other words, like, being a good team member is realizing that the team depends on you being a good player.
Yeah.
And that comes from you working yourself
right.
to grow and helping other people. So if you're listening, you're going, man,
Yeah.
I'm my job. I'm a weakling. There's 2 things you could do. Again, ask yourself, what are you best at? And then, are you in that place? Are you doing what you're best at? And 2, grow. And again, you're listening to this podcast, so you're growing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Casey, what about you? One or 2 laws. I'm not sure how.
I'll give 2 laws. I think I'll give 2 laws. I'll talk about one super briefly. I think a lot of the price tag was probably my top law in this entire seminar that John Maxwell had, because I think that's something for me for this year is like something I've been even thinking about before I did the 17 Laws of Teamwork, and I think the 17 Laws of Teamwork just kind of identified it in a deeper way and just reassured me of what I want, what I'm looking for this year. God just reminding me that this is where the direction I'm heading. It's like the law of the price tag is like pay the price. Like I think
the team fails to reach his potential when he fails to pay the price.
And so with our team, I mean, applying it to myself personally is like, I think many times there's been doorways that have been open for me, but I've only put one foot in. And again, talking about like going back to the vision of like basketball and stuff like that. It's like, even for you, that's a great example. Whether you became a professional basketball player or not, like you put everything you had into it because you were determined to accomplish it. And I think that's for me in this season, as I've even discovered my calling, right? I feel confident in what God's called me to do. It's like, well, am I going to put half myself into it? Am I going to put one foot through the door that God's opened up for me? Like, or am I, we have that choice. And so it's like, I'm going to step both feet in. And it's like, in some ways, there's risks to it, the avenues that, you take. And I think that's part of following Jesus is sometimes it's risky and sometimes because maybe, many of the times we don't understand what's actually happening in front of us and what God's revealed to us. Like we're just kind of discovering it as we go, but there's a lot of beauty in that. And there's a lot of, God will direct and he will establish your steps as you do the work yourself too. God's just not going to give you the plans too. I think that's something I'm realizing too, is just like, God's just not going to just drag you along to the place and, he'll show you where you're like,
God won't do for you what you're not willing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. In Proverbs 69, I think it is, it says, the heart of man makes plans, but God directs his steps. Yes. So he doesn't say, God makes plans, and then I direct my steps.
Yeah.
It says, You are to make the plans.
That's
you
right.
are to think it out. You are to plan. You are
That's
to
right.
work it out. You are to spend time considering the future that you're headed and your abilities and your skills and how
Yep.
you could best serve people. And then as you make your plans, God will direct your steps
That's right.
according to his plan for you, which, as we said, is good, is perfect for you. But he's asking you to do the work.
That's right. And so, that this is definitely a huge law
I got
for me.
super passionate there. I'm sorry,
Well, it's-
Casey.
it's-
I'm like banging the table almost.
I'm passionate about this too. It's really important, I think, for me this year, especially, I believe this year is going to be a lot of breakthrough and a lot of, miracles happening. And, that it also, it's, these things like we just said, it's not just like God's just not going to make it appear in front of us. So, I'm like, I got to do the work too, but I'm going to stop putting one foot through and I'm going to step all the way through the door that God's opened up for me. And, I'm going to pour into my skills like I never have before because, I desire to experience everything God has for me. And so if he's revealed things to me and he's leading me in a direction, like, why not go in that direction? I should go, head first, run the race that's been set out for me. So, a lot of the price tag is really a powerful one. I'm sure we'll continue talking about it as we go on with our podcast in the year because it really is a powerful one. But another one.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
because we'll wrap this one and then we'll move to the next one. We'll wrap
Sure,
it
yeah.
so that way we tie them with bows. And,
Yeah, of course.
we're moving on. No, but this one is extremely powerful too because it's a reminder that what you fail to do today, you'll pay for eventually later. And if you do it today, you'll reap benefit from it later. So he talked about in this one how, and you mentioned this before in one of the podcasts, how success, oftentimes people think success is a recognition of success.
That's right, yeah.
Like you graduated from college, so people are like, oh, you're so successful. It's like, no. Your success began the day you started going to college and working.
That's right.
Success was just waiting to show up. So it's like, if you do the right thing today, you're going to be successful tomorrow. It's going to show up eventually. If you are failing to do the right thing, if you're doing the wrong thing,
Yeah.
you're already a failure. It just hasn't
hasn't
shown up.
Yeah.
So he's a compounding effect in this.
Yep.
Pay the price, which was like, if you pay now, you could play later. But if you play now, you'll pay later. And the return that you'll have to pay in the back, it's going to be way harder
Yeah.
than if you did,
Yeah.
than if you pay now. A great analogy of this is investment. So you guys in your 20s, if you start investing into your future now, you start saving for your retirement by investing into the mutual funds or whatever, 30 years from now, that thing's going to be compounded incredibly.
Right.
If you start 20 years from now, good luck.
Yeah.
You waited to invest.
I'll still be working.
It's not going to compound like it would have if you would have started now
Right.
in your 20s.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same with your skills. It's the same with the things you want. Don't wait till you think you're ready to do something because you never will feel you're ready to do something. I think this is something we have to tell young leaders because it's something I wish I would have been told. I always felt like I just was never ready. So I never wanted to start because I always felt like, well, what are people going to say? And then eventually you start getting to another age group and then you go like, maybe I'm too old now to do. Like, what will people say if I do? It's like, where was the perfect season in all of this?
Yeah.
Like, one of my big curses have been, and I know this now, so now I just tell myself is I always feel I have to get more information before I do something.
Sure.
So then I fall into this like, get information. And once I have enough information, then I'll do. It's like, you never have enough information. Have you Googled anything? Do you see the millions of websites that pop up?
Yeah.
If you could like, who is God? Billions of pages pop up.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, right.
Figuring out. And
Yeah.
so if you're a young leader, just start and then learn as you're going.
That's right.
Because that's how you become successful anyway. So
Yeah, that's good.
Pay now, play later.
That's right.
Or play now
Pay
and
later.
pay much harder later.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this kind of really does tie into the law of the scoreboard. I think for me, as I am determined this year to step all the way through, like to step in, fully into the skills that I have, the God's gifted me with, the calling He has for me, like where He's leading me with the church and with music and all that stuff, like stepping all the way in and being, fully committed to it. I think the law of the scoreboard does help too, and it helps me to determine where I'm succeeding and where I may be failing or I may be falling short. Because I don't know if you have what the law of the scoreboard says.
Yeah, I have it. It says the team can make adjustments when he knows where it stands.
Yes.
That's a lot of the scoreboard.
And so,
Sorry, I was writing something down the moment you asked. I
no,
was
you're
like,
good. No, that's good. And I think that this is good for our team. We did talk about this prior to our podcast. We've been talking about like, man, we're being intentional about the law of the scoreboard and like identifying. Man, I think sometimes I misunderstand statistics and data and stuff like that, and I just don't want to see it. I don't really care for it. It's like, well, what's the point of it? I don't really know what. But I do think there is value in those things, and that those things actually do reveal a lot about something. And so, you just think about sports and stuff like that, statistics and data, and like, where's the team failing? Where's the team winning? Why did the team fail here? Because, you see statistics and stuff like that. And so I think it does go great for a team as well. When we talk about as a team, as we build, teams for ourselves, these statistics and this data that we obtain and that we get, like again, I think people too, I think people just in general love to see statistics, whether like for me, whether I like it or not. In some ways I probably do like seeing data and statistics and I'm interested in it.
Do you like results?
Yes.
Right? Results are how you tell whether or not you're winning.
That's right.
If you have a scoreboard.
Yes.
So of course you love it, Casey.
So and so people love it, and so that's why we want to utilize it as a tool. We want to offer that to people, and so in Teamworks, I think that's what's going to help create a strong team. Is what's going to bring people in and draw people in, and people want to see results. And so, and I think for my life personally, as I step into what God's calling me to do, and like I want to fully commit to the skills and the gifts He's given me into music, into the church, into like these things where He's leading me. It's like I should start developing these statistics in the scoreboard so that I can understand maybe there's areas, when it comes to my scheduling, right? I have a scoreboard. I'm like, am I following? At some point, I go over statistics at the end of the week, at the end of the month, whatever it is. We have goals, right? I have goals for the year, goal for the quarter. That's all part of the scoreboard, and I can write down, and like we have these planners, which are like so super good, full focus planners, and at the beginning, there's like so much there's just so much stuff. Like sometimes it's overwhelming because I have to write all these things down and think about my weeks and all this stuff. But it's good because I can follow the statistics and write down, and start seeing where maybe I'm lacking. Maybe there's a goal I'm not reaching. It's like that will help me in order to adjust. Like I said, the team can make adjustments when it knows where it stands. And so the law of the scoreboard just for me was like, I should apply this to my life. I should be using statistics and data and like these things, and maybe there's a better term I can use. But
you don't have to say statistics, just measurable results.
Yes,
because we're not talking about it's a 0.4 or like you're talking like, man, I said I was gonna wake up at 9 a.m. Right. Start working 9 a.m. every day.
Right.
Did I start at 9 a.m.?
Right.
It's like no, I started at 11:30.
Right.
Then I fell. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, what led me? And then you could evaluate, right?
Yeah.
Now you have the scoreboard.
Evaluation, yeah.
Work was supposed to start at 9, but I started at 11:30. Now let me sit down and evaluate what happened. Well, I went to bed at 1 a.m. in the morning, and then I couldn't wake up at 7 so that I could do my devotional and drink my coffee or whatever and start work at 9.
That's right.
So now I have a choice.
Yeah.
Now is when it goes like accountability. Will I do something about it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
If I'm not going to do something about it, then I'm going to choose to continue to lose the game.
That's right.
And if I'm going to do something about it, then I go back to the law previous to this. I'm going to have to pay the price.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm going to have to lose something that I enjoy or I'm allowing myself to do to get something that I desire more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this one is, for me, it's a very important one because one, it's one that it's extremely needed, but it's also one that sometimes I struggle to apply because, like, for example, you guys are non-paid. So sometimes I feel bad putting a scoreboard for you guys because I was like, I don't know, like how, like Armando, we're still trying to figure out how to make money on this. It's like none of us are making money. Like, we know God's going to provide for us. And it's like, man, I feel bad if I give you this, if I give you that. Like, and they're like, I got to figure out how to make money. Right. And it's like, actually I shouldn't feel bad because I'm actually, by not giving you a scoreboard, I'm actually not allowing you to thrive, which is not good because my worst leadership experience in my life was when I finished a year of my leadership and I felt like I had no idea if I had won. And the reason I felt like I had not won was there was no scoreboard. And I literally described that year as it was like at the end of the year, they're telling me things that I did And I was like, yeah, but it's like I just threw a dart, just like Charlie Brown in the description of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like I threw a dart and you just drew a bullseye around it. Like, what is the bullseye I'm hitting? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to hit?
Yeah.
If I know that, at least I could walk in that direction. So scoreboard gives us clarity.
Yes.
And that's kind of why it's so needed. Why it's like, okay, if we're praying for 125 to 150 people to join our core team, and we're praying for 10 more leaders that will work in high capacity like the three of us are doing it, so that we could launch a church that will bless the city and change the world around us, where people know Christ and make him known. We're trying to do that, okay?
Yes.
Then what are you doing to have those conversations? What are you doing to reach out to them? What are you doing to contact people? And how are you holding yourself accountable? Because a scoreboard will tell you whether or not you're losing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it will also tell you whether or not you want to be accountable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you going to make the necessary adjustment? That's when leadership comes in and say, like, does my ego need to take a hit and say, you're not doing the right thing? Or does my feeling of wanting to be like need to take a hit and be like, we didn't do what we say we were going to do.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because sometimes that's how we could come out as jerk the most. It's like, I'm holding you accountable for what we said, but because I'm holding you accountable, I was a jerk about it. Right? Like I like, and that's my struggle personally. Like I'm like, well, I need to hold them accountable, and not just you, like people in general. When I'm leading, it's like I need to hold them accountable. So how do I make sure I get to the conversation we talk, but I don't say it in a jerk way? Because I'm so direct. That I could come out like a jerk, even though I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just saying, here's what we said. What did you do? It's like, can you say that kinder? So this for me is a very important law that is essential for our success right now as a church plant. We need to know our scoreboard financially, which we know. We need to be praying for us because we need to raise $500,000 to plant the church. That includes staffing, buying equipment, rental, promotion. We counted the cost. We need that much money. We don't need it all at once. All at once, we need about 283. But by the end of 2024, when we complete a year cycle of being a church, we would have need to hit the $500,000 mark. That's right. So because that's how we could pay salaries as they're coming in consistently month to month, but we need to raise that by having committed people who will say, hey, I'm committed to seeing the church flourish and to seeing what God does in our community through it. So we need to know our finances scoreboard. We need to know our leadership scoreboard. We need to know that we are holding each other accountable to raise leaders in season. Stephen Chandler says something that was so brutal that is still swimming around in my mind. He said, God will not bring you people that you will neglect. So if you're going to neglect the people that he's currently giving you, he's not going to give you any more. So stop neglecting the one he's giving you. So it's like, so we have to be like, okay, if God's bringing people to us and we're saying we want to raise leaders and we want people to be fully alive, how are we setting them on a path of life, of discovering their purposes? How are we getting them into that? So we got to measure that. So, and right now we have some things we're measuring. I'm not going to share it, but we set them up, and now we could evaluate in a month whether or not we have the right scoreboard, or whether or not and whether or not what we did right or wrong. Like, hey, we said it was doable. Yes. Then how come we didn't match it? What happened? Okay, right? So
we want to be able to know where we need to adapt in order to be successful. So
and Max Dupree quote that John Maxwell gave is just so brutal. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality, and that's what the scoreboard does. The scoreboard defines reality. Nate, any thoughts on this one, or any other more thoughts, Casey, on this one?
I don't have any more thoughts. I can go to the next law, or Nate, if you have any thoughts.
I'll share one more law, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
because I think we're about an hour.
We can definitely.
I have 7. Obviously, I would have shared all of them, of course, but I'm not going to. I think I began by opening this conversation by saying that the teamwork makes the dream work. And if you're listening to me and you have a big dream in your heart, you need a team to achieve it. And for me, it was just the law 1 mixed in with law 17.
Yeah.
The law of significance, 1 is too small of number to make anything great.
Yep.
Mixing with the law of dividends, which says, I'm having to get
Investing in the team compounds over time? No, wait.
Investing in the team compounds over
Yeah,
time. Yep. The combination of that two things, so I wrote my insights, was to achieve anything great, you need a team. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
1 is too small a number to do anything significant.
That's right.
And here are the compounding effect of a team. Your team makes you better than you are. Number 2, your team multiplies your value to others. Number 3, your team enables you to do what you do best. And number 4, your team represents you where you cannot go.
Yeah.
And then on the applications that I wrote, like, don't go it alone. Build a team who will make the dream a reality.
That's good.
And then I said, even Jesus built a team.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
He had 12 disciples. And then beyond that, he had more than 12 disciples that followed him because, right, in Acts, when they cast lots
they
to
built
replace,
the team. Yeah.
they already had people who had walked with Jesus from the beginning of the
Yeah.
ministry. And then in the Gospels, we see Jesus sending out 72 people in pairs. He sends them out as a team. Think about that.
Yep.
Paul does his ministry on a team with
Yes.
people constantly. So we're to do that. And then I wrote as well. So find catalytic people, people who get it done and then some, who make things happen, because we're in a season where we are moving on a dream that God has given us. So we need people that join our team
Right.
that are like, man, here's how I could do best for the team.
That's right.
And it's like, go do it.
Yep, that's right.
Like we're praying right now intentionally for 10 people. One of them is our
right.
children's ministry director. We want someone who's passionate about children, who want to create a safe, enjoyable place,
Yeah.
where kids will grow to know Christ, and volunteers and leaders that serve will grow in love and friendship with one another, and in living out their purpose. Like, that person needs to be a catalytic person. They need to make it happen. They need to raise their team. They need to pour into them as they see the vision that we want to raise the next generation. I read today a great reminder. Your kids will judge you by how you treat their parents, and the parents will judge you by how you treat their kids. And the most important people in your church are the kids of the church. Because in 5 to 10 years, some of them become the next generation of leaders that lead out in the church.
That's right.
So Andy Stanley says the most important ministry that happens in his church happens outside of the main auditorium. Happens in the children ministry. I truly believe that's going to be the same thing with us.
That's right.
We're going to have a killer service. Oh, you could bet. I'm telling you. I promise you. Our services are going to be killer. Worship is going to be incredible. Messages are going to be off the chain. I'm blowing hot air on myself here. But, like, I'm telling you, I believe it.
Yeah.
We're going to create services that we want to go
right.
to this church, and we feel inspired, and we encounter Christ, and we feel God. It's services that are memorable.
That's right.
But more than that, those children better be receiving 10 times more than we are.
That's right.
Because honestly, the only reason I'm probably a Christian today is because of what I experienced in my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
And I share this with you guys. It was the pastor in my childhood that made me say, I think I could be a pastor. Because all the pastors in my teenage life and in my young adult life, I was like, never will I be like them. They are great examples of who I do not want to be like. So I would never be a pastor. So as I reconcile this calling to become a pastor with my desire to never be a pastor, it was reflecting on my childhood and the way that pastor made me feel. As I walked out of that church and he greeted me and treated me with kindness and respect, even though I was 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. And the investment that the Sunday teachers, Sunday school teachers, as I used to call them back in the days, because I don't call them that anymore, right? They're now leaders, used to have in my life, that impacted me today.
That's right.
That's
Wow.
where I'm at.
Same, man.
So you could bet our services is going to be killer. But that children's director better have a heart for those kids to find Christ and encounter Christ in a real deep way.
That's right.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited for the future.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for what's coming.
Amen.
I could share more things, but I think this is good for right now.
Yeah.
We are so grateful if you stuck with us all the way to the end.
That's right.
We believe in you. We are sharing this conversation on leadership because we believe that God has called you to lead in a specific area or to be a team player in a great team. And you cannot be a great team player if you don't know these laws either. And whatever you are right now, do your best. Find out what you're best at, and then pay the price.
That's right.
Be the best person. Shine your life for the glory of God.
That's right.
God made you to shine. As always, we can't wait to see you on January 29th
Yep.
at 5 p.m. for our next Garden Experience.
Yep.
And as we always say, we love you and we're for you. But more importantly, God loves you and He's for you.
Yep.
Amen. We'll see you guys.